Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the small village. Where I lived was famous for its chilling tales, but I never believed I would become a part of them. My name is James, and that summer, I returned to the old house at the end of a cobblestone road where my parents had lived before they died. The house had been abandoned for many years, dusty, with broken windows and tattered curtains fluttering. In the wind, neighbors often whispered that there was something strange about this house, a dark figure appearing every evening. But I thought it was all just harmless, creepy stories. The day I arrived, a heavy silence filled the space. The surrounding houses seemed to deliberately keep their distance. No one wanted to look in the direction of where I was about to stay. The old wooden door creaked when I opened it. A cold, damp air blew in my face. The smell of mold and rotten wood permeated every breath. I walked in, the sound of my shoes echoing throughout the empty room, as if disturbing something that had been dormant for too long. In the kitchen, I found my mother's old things, a few broken porcelain bowls, a wall clock that had stopped running for an unknown year. Going up to the second floor, I saw a large mirror in the middle of the hallway. Strangely, for the first moment, my image was not reflected completely. I stood still for a few seconds, my eyes fixed on the mirror, and then slowly reached out to touch it. The glass was cold, but in it I caught a glimpse of a very fast movement, like a shadow passing behind me. My heart pounded. I turned around, but the hallway was all empty space and closed doors. That night, I spread a thin blanket in the living room because the bedroom upstairs seemed too stuffy. The sound of the wind whistling through the cracks. In the door, the ticking of the dead clock, and even the faint sound of footsteps coming from upstairs. I lay still, trying to convince myself that it was all just my imagination. But then, when I looked out the window, I saw a figure standing right outside the garden, motionless. My heart stopped. I rubbed my eyes, and when I looked back, the yard was empty. I fell asleep without realizing it. But in my dream, I saw myself standing in front of the mirror, and from within, a pair of skinny hands reached out, trying to pull me inside. I struggled, my screams choked in my throat. I woke up with a start, sweating like a shower, and realized that I was still lying on the living room floor. But strangely, there were red bruises on my wrists, as if someone had really grabbed them. The next morning, I went to see the old neighbor, the rare one still living in this area. When I asked about the house, his eyes became distant and trembling. He whispered that a family had died here under mysterious circumstances, and since then, no one had dared to stay long. The phenomena I had encountered were only the beginning. He advised me to leave before it was too late, but I was caught up in my deadly curiosity. The second night, the noise came again. This time, it was clearer, like the sound of something heavy being dragged across the wooden floor. I walked up the stairs with a shaky flashlight in my hand. The flickering light reached the mirror, and I froze. The reflection was no longer mine, but another face, pale, with sunken eyes, a crooked smile on its mouth. I dropped the flashlight. The light rolled across the floor, and darkness filled the room. From deep within, a soft voice spoke, whispering my name like an invitation. I knew I had truly entered a horror story that even word-of-mouth short horror stories could not compare to. And this was only the beginning. I feel clearly that this house is waiting for me to discover the terrible secret it hides. But do I have the courage to continue? Stay tuned for the next episode, where the secrets in the house begin to rise in a more terrifying way than ever. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. I woke up in the morning with a heavy heart, my mind reeling from what had happened last night. The mirror in the hallway was still there, silent and lifeless. But the image of the pale face and the crooked smile still haunted me every moment. I told myself that it was all just an illusion caused by the fatigue and obsession of hearing the paranormal stories around this house, but deep down, I knew I could no longer deny it. I decided to explore the house more closely to find the answer. Each room was covered with thick dust, the weak light seeping through the cracks of the windows, creating dim streaks of light like fragile hands touching the walls. I opened each door. The rusty hinges creaked eerily. In a small room, I found an old diary, the leather cover peeling, the paper yellowed by time. On the first page was a blurred name, Margaret. I sat down, turning each page. The scribbled notes recorded the days of uncertainty. The more I read, the more chills ran down my spine. Margaret told of nights when she heard whispers in the house, of shadows standing still outside the window, and of the mirror in the hallway reflecting images that did not belong to this world. In one passage, she wrote that her son often talked to himself in front of the mirror, and one day, the boy disappeared without a trace. From then on, her family fell into a series of tragedies, and in the end, everyone died in unexplainable circumstances. As I closed the diary, a cold wind suddenly blew through, even though all the windows were tightly closed. The door behind me closed automatically, making a heavy bang. I turned around, and in a split second, I saw the shadow of a short child gliding across the hallway, disappearing around the corner where the mirror was placed. My heart was pounding, but instead of running away, curiosity drew me closer. I looked at myself in the mirror. The initial reflection was still me, my face tense, my eyes wide open. But just a few seconds later, right behind me in the mirror, there was the shadow of a little boy, messy hair, wearing old pajamas. He stood still, his eyes sunken like black holes, looking straight at me. I turned around. The hallway was empty. That night, I decided to challenge myself. I placed a chair in front of the mirror, sat down with a candle. The flickering candlelight reflected a shaky light. I stared into the mirror, hoping to see the truth more clearly. After a few minutes, the room seemed to thicken. The cold air enveloped it. Then I heard a child's soft laughter. The boy appeared again in the mirror, this time raising his hand, gesturing for me to come closer. I trembled as I reached my hand close to the glass, and at that moment, the cold hand from the mirror touched my hand. I screamed, fell backwards, and the candle went out. In the darkness, laughter echoed throughout the room, lingering on and on. I ran out into the hallway, my heart pounding, sweat pouring down my body. I knew clearly that what I was facing was not an illusion. This house was truly haunted, and the mirror was the gateway between the two worlds. The next morning, I met the old neighbor again. When I told him about the child in the mirror, he was silent for a long time before sighing. He said that long ago, in Margaret's family, there was a boy named Daniel. The night before he disappeared, the boy kept mumbling to his mother that there was a friend in the mirror who kept calling him to go out. People believed that Daniel had been dragged to the other world, the animated horror stories I had seen. on the screen now could not compare to the truth I was witnessing. The old man warned that if I stayed, I would soon become the next target. But I couldn't stop. The diary, the mirror, and the shadow of the child made me like a truth addict. Needed to know what had really happened. At night, as I was about to lock the door, a knock came from the mirror. 3 dry, steady knocks. I froze, turned around, and saw the child's face pressed against the glass, lips moving as if whispering something. I strained to listen, but it was only a muffled murmur. Then suddenly, small hands began to pound on the glass, the sound echoing throughout the hallway. The mirror shook, as if it were about to shatter. I backed away, and in a moment, I realized there was more than one face looking out. It wasn't just the child's, but many others, old and young, all pale, with empty eyes, mouths with strange smiles. They all looked at me, as if waiting for the moment I would cross the line. I ran downstairs in a panic, my heart pounding, but in my head there was only one thought. The mirror was not simply a reflection. It's a door, and once it's opened, there's no turning back. The story doesn't end there, because the next night I'll discover an even more terrifying secret about the mirror and the souls trapped inside it. Stay tuned for the next episode, where the truth will gradually come out. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk after the night of terror with the mirror, I could barely sleep. Every little sound startled me, but the truth I was facing was too terrifying to ignore. I knew this house had a dark secret, and that mirror was the key that led me to it. I sat in the living room, looking at the old diary I had found. Margaret's scribbled pages haunted me. I remembered clearly what she had written. Once it is chosen, no one can escape. The words seemed to engulf me in a feeling of being watched. For a moment, I felt as if eyes were watching from every corner of the house. At noon, I decided to check the basement. The door was right in the corner of the kitchen, covered in a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. When I opened it, a strong musty smell wafted up, mixed with a cold draft that made me shiver. I turned on the flashlight, the wooden steps creaking under my feet. When I got there, I found a small cellar with damp stone walls and a dusty floor. In the middle of the cellar, there was a rotten wooden table. On the table were strange objects, a few half-burned candles, a ceramic bowl containing black powder, and especially an old yellowed photo. In the photo was Margaret's family standing in front of this house. But what made me freeze was that behind them, reflected in the mirror hanging on the porch, there was an unfamiliar face. It was not anyone in the photo, but a pale face, eyes as dark as a deep hole. I shakily picked up the photo, and at that moment, the flashlight flickered, then went out. Darkness enveloped me. I panicked and groped my way out, but whispers echoed throughout the cellar. Many voices overlapped, distorted, as if discussing my presence. Children's giggles mixed with old people's groans, each sound echoing in my ears like needles. I fell down the stairs, trying to escape. When the cellar door slammed shut, I clearly heard a hand pounding from inside. My whole body was cold. Knew that the cellar contained more terrible things than the mirror. I decided to return to my old bedroom on the second floor to look for more clues. While cleaning up the old things, I found a small notebook hidden under the bed. The notebook was filled with strange symbols, seemingly ancient rituals. Interspersed among the symbols were scribbled lines. they did not leave. They were held back. At night, I heard the knocking from the mirror again. But this time, it was no longer 3 single sounds. It echoed loudly, fiercely, like dozens of hands were pounding in succession. I covered my ears, but the sound still penetrated my brain. When I looked up, the mirror had changed. A series of faces were crowded together, their eyes glaring as if they wanted to tear the glass to get out. In a moment of panic, I saw a figure, standing right behind me in the mirror. I turned around. The room was empty, but in the mirror, he was still there. A tall, thin man in a black cloak, his face hidden in darkness. He raised his hand, and his distorted face appeared, his mouth opened wide in an unnatural smile. I screamed, throwing the notebook at the mirror. Immediately, the tapping sound stopped. The space fell into silence. I gasped, trying to calm down. But deep down I knew I had stirred something. The mirror not only contained the souls of the dead, but also a powerful entity that was manipulating everything. It did not want me to leave. The next morning, the old neighbor came back to find me. He saw the panic on my face and tremblingly confessed something. That in the past, the villagers had tried to destroy the mirror, but whoever touched it met with terrible misfortune. Some went crazy, some disappeared without a trace. This house is cursed, and the curse is tied to the mirror itself. He begged me to leave, but I was too caught up. On the 3rd night, I decided to set up a camera to record. I wanted proof that what I saw was not my imagination. When night fell, I turned on the camera and sat in front of the mirror. The knocking sounded again. The silhouette of the child appeared, then many other faces, but this time, the silhouette of the man in black stepped closer, his eyes boring into me. The camera fell to the floor as I ran away, my heart pounding. I didn't dare turn back to check the camera right away, but I knew that if I survived tomorrow morning, the recording would give me the answer. And maybe it would be proof that this mirror was the gateway to the most terrifying, short, scary stories known to man. The story didn't end there, because in the next episode, the recording would reveal a truth that I had never imagined. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk. The next morning, I woke up with a limp body and a dizzy mind. I had run away the night before, leaving the camera lying on the floor. I took a deep breath and decided to return to the room where the mirror stood. The daylight made everything less scary, but I could still feel the coldness that permeated. The hallway, the camera, was still there. The indicator light had gone off because the battery was dead. I picked it up, my heart pounding. After charging it, I shakily opened the recording. The first image was just me sitting in front of the mirror, the candle flickering. Then strange sounds rang out. The shadow of the child appeared in the frame, followed by a series of distorted faces pressed against the glass. I shivered when I saw the moment the man in black got closer. But what made me freeze was the last part. As I ran, the camera continued to record. The lens shook, but clearly showed a long, thin arm reaching out from the mirror. Then, quickly retracting, I dropped the camera, a cold sweat breaking out. There was no doubt about it. The mirror was indeed a portal between two worlds, and what was inside was trying to escape. I stepped back, but at that moment, the knocking sounded again. The first 3 was slow, then came in rapid succession, as if someone was trying to break through the wall. That night, I decided to try something different. I placed candles in a circle around the mirror, holding the notebook full of symbols I had found. Inside the notebook was a note written in shaky handwriting. This ritual can keep them at bay. I wasn't sure if it would work, but it was my only hope. I began to read the symbols aloud, my voice trembling in the quiet room. Immediately, the atmosphere changed. The temperature dropped sharply, my breath turned to white smoke. The candles burned fiercely and then went out all at once. In the darkness, the mirror glowed dimly. Faces began to appear again, this time clearer than ever. The child looked at me with black eyes, his mouth moving, and I clearly heard a childish voice in my head, "You won't escape." I tried to continue reading, but the voices came in waves. The faces screamed in unison. The shrill sound seemed to tear my brain apart. I fell to my knees, the book flying away. In a split second, I saw the hand of the man in black sticking out of the glass, his long, hooked fingers almost touching my shoulder. I panicked and crawled out of the candle circle, grabbed the book, and screamed as I read the last symbol. There was a loud bang. The mirror shook violently and shattered, hundreds of pieces of glass flying all over the room. I fell, holding my head, my ears ringing from the harsh sound. When I looked up, the room was completely silent. The mirror was broken. But strangely, the pieces of glass did not scatter as usual. They spun, hovered in the air, and then gradually reassembled into their original shape. I was stunned to see that absurd scene. After only a few seconds, the mirror was intact again, as if it had never been broken. And this time, instead of reflecting me, it reflected a completely different room, a dark space, with dozens of people standing crowded together, all looking out. I stepped back, my heart pounding. The mirror was no longer a wall. It was like a door that had been opened. I heard footsteps coming from inside, hurried, getting closer and closer. At that moment, the door to the room behind me opened. The old man next door appeared, holding a wooden cross in his hand. He shouted, "Get out of here, James. You don't know what you've done." But I stood there, frozen, unable to move my feet. In the mirror, the shadow of the man in black had already approached, only one step. Away from the thin glass, the old man rushed forward, pulling me out of the room. As we ran, we heard the sound of cracking behind us. The mirror shook violently, the sound like 100 hands hitting it at the same time. The old man gasped, "You woke them up. Now they are all trying to escape." Before I could ask more, a loud noise came from the living room. The whole house shook as if there was an earthquake. Darkness gradually enveloped, and I realized that the real battle had just begun. The story is not over yet, because in the next episode, I will learn the truth about the origin of the mirror and the reason why it was sealed in this house. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the house shook. The sound of broken glass echoed through the walls. I was dragged out into the hallway by the old neighbor, but my trembling legs had no strength to move. He shouted in my ear, "James, you have to leave here now, or you will have no way to live." But I still turned my head to look, and the image in the mirror made me freeze. The mirror no longer reflected the bedroom. Instead, it opened onto a long, dark hallway with closed doors on both sides. Behind each door, I could see the silhouettes of people approaching, their empty eyes watching. Some of the doors began to shake, as if something was trying to escape. I realized that this was not just an ordinary mirror, but a prison of imprisoned souls. And now, that prison door was slightly open. The old neighbor, his face pale, tried to block the mirror with a wooden cross. But immediately, an invisible force threw him away, hitting the wall hard. I rushed to catch him, but he just shook his head, breathing heavily. It's too late. You have to find a way to seal him before he comes out. Him. I knew he was talking about the man in black. The figure gradually became clearer in the mirror. Each heavy step echoed. The sound of spikes hitting the stone floor made my heart tighten. His face gradually appeared. Sunken eyes, a crooked smile that stretched from ear to ear. His skin was pale, as if he had been dead for a long time. Every time he came closer, the mirror shook. The glass cracked more. In desperation, I clutched Margaret's old diary. I remembered a passage she had written. Only the blood of the living can prevent escape. The thought made me shudder, but now I had no choice. I bit my hand hard. Blood dripped onto the floor, then used it to redraw the symbols in the book. Immediately, the air thickened. The mirror glowed brightly, then emitted a piercing screech. The souls inside screamed, pressing their faces against the glass, their hands pounding violently. The man in black stopped, his eyes piercing me with hatred. He raised his long hand and slammed it hard against the glass, causing the entire house to shake violently. The old man next door struggled to stand up, standing beside me. He said in a ragged breath, "You have to continue. If you stop, everything will escape." I trembled, continuing to draw symbols in blood. But the more I drew, the colder my body felt, as if hundreds of invisible hands were touching me, pulling me toward the darkness. At that moment, I heard a whisper right next to my ear, "Stay with us. Stay forever." The little boy, Daniel, appeared. In the mirror, his dark eyes filled with tears, his small hand reaching out towards me. I was almost hypnotized, taking another step towards the mirror. But the old man shouted loudly, pulling my hand back, "Don't look into its eyes. It's tricking you." The shout woke me up. I used the last of my strength, completing the circle of symbols. A blinding light burst from the mirror. All the distorted faces screamed, deformed, and then disappeared like smoke. The man in black was pushed back, his eyes burning fiercely. He screamed, his voice echoing throughout the house, then was sucked back in. The mirror closed with a thunderous bang, then fell into absolute silence. The room was dark, leaving only me and the old man gasping for breath. But when I thought everything was over, the mirror slowly lit up again. This time, no faces appeared, only a pitch-black, endless scene. From within, a familiar voice rang out, low and ghostly, "This is just the beginning." The old man next door clutched his chest, his face contorted in pain. "I warned you, he cannot be sealed forever," he whispered. "This curse has existed for generations, and now you have become a part of it." I collapsed, devastated. I knew that even though I had temporarily blocked it, sooner or later, the gate would open wide. And when that happened, not only me, but the entire outside world would be drawn into darkness. The story did not end here, because in the next episode, I would find clues about the true origin of the curse, and why I was the one chosen to face it. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. After that night, a strange feeling arose within me. Every time I looked into the mirror, Even the small mirrors in the bathroom, I saw distorted images flashing and disappearing. It seemed that since I used my blood to seal it, I had been bound by the curse. The old man next door said that I had become the keeper of the key. It sounded vague, but the truth was that darkness was clinging to me every day. I decided to investigate the past of the house. In a room filled with old papers, I found a wooden box. Inside were records of exorcism rituals from hundreds of years ago. The blurred text stated that this house once belonged to a wealthy family in the 19th century. They owned an ancient mirror brought back from Europe. It was rumored that the mirror was created from the ashes of a dark ritual, capable of trapping souls. But then that family gradually died. Each death was mysterious. And since then, this house has been associated with countless terrifying animated horror stories. The more I read, the more I shivered. The man in black I saw was not an ordinary soul. He was mentioned in the records as the keeper. He was the entity that controlled the soul prison in the mirror. And now, he knew of my existence, even calling my name. At night, I heard noises. Again, not only from the large mirror in the hallway, but also from the small mirrors in the house. There was a rattling sound. I tried to cover them all with a cloth, but they still shook, distorting the reflection of people. The whispering did not stop. The sentences were broken. "We are waiting. The key holder opened the door for us." I could not sleep, wandering around the house in extreme tension. In the kitchen, I saw a shadow pass by the glass cabinet door. I turned around in surprise. There was no one. But when I looked back at the mirror, the reflection was no longer me, but a pale face, deep-set eyes, staring. I smashed the cabinet. The glass shards flew everywhere, but the childish laughter still rang right in my ears. The next morning, I went to the town library, hoping to find more information. An old librarian turned pale when she heard me mention the house. She said that, since she was a child, she had heard the story of the keeper, the man in black in the mirror. According to legend, he was a treacherous magician who used a sacrificial ritual to become immortal. But the wrong ritual caused him to be trapped in the mirror forever. He hated everyone, always trying to pull more souls to expand his power. I left the library with an old book secretly given to me by the librarian. It said, "The keeper of the key must choose. Either seal it forever with his own sacrifice, or become the gate for him to step out." The words were like a knife stabbing straight into my mind. I, myself, will have to choose which path. That night, the old neighbor returned. His face was haggard. His eyes were deeply tired. He said, "James, I am old. I don't have much time left. You are the one he is aiming for. If you don't stop, he will escape." I asked the only way to stop it. He was silent for a long time and then replied, "To destroy the mirror. But no one has ever done it. Anyone who has tried has paid with their life." I sat silently, feeling a heavy weight on my shoulders. But I knew clearly, if I didn't try, everything would be swallowed up. This curse would spread beyond the rotten walls of the house. On Friday night, I decided to face it. I prepared a large iron hammer, lit candles all over the room so there would be no dark corners. The mirror stood tall and silent, but I felt hundreds of eyes watching from within. I raised the hammer, shouted loudly, and hit it hard. But instead of shattering, the mirror only shook, emitting a dull sound. The image inside changed. The keeper stood upright, his smile wide, his voice echoing, "You cannot destroy where I belong. You can only choose." The room became dark, the candle extinguished, I was drawn towards the mirror, my body losing its weight. In an instant, I fell into a pitch-black void. Around me were lost souls, their faces distorted and crying, their hands trying to touch me as if to pull me down. I screamed, trying to struggle, but the cold hand still held tight. Then I saw the keeper standing in front, his eyes piercing, his deep voice echoing. "You are the one who holds the key. You must choose. Stay here instead of me, or open the gate for me to step out." I was stunned, my throat choked, my heart pounding. I understood that my choice would decide the fate of all. Just as I was about to speak, another hand pulled me back. I woke up, lying flat on the living room floor, the mirror standing there, silent as if nothing had happened. The old man next door sat next to me, his face blank. He whispered, "You've reached the threshold, but next time, he won't let you off so easily." I looked into the mirror, the dim light still flickering in it, like a giant eye watching. I knew my time was running out. Asterisk, the story is not over yet. Because in the next episode, I will be faced with a terrible choice: sacrifice myself to seal him forever, or become the gate that opens for him to escape from prison. Hello, everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, after the terrifying encounter, I was almost exhausted, both physically and mentally. The following days, I lived in a state of extreme tension. Whenever I passed the mirror, I felt the cold eyes of the keeper following me. Sometimes for a moment, his figure appeared right behind me, but when I turned around, there was only an empty space. The old man next door was getting weaker, but he still insisted on staying to help me. He said that he was the last person to witness Margaret's death. That day, she tried to seal the mirror, but failed, and her soul disappeared. He believed that. Now it was my turn to continue this fight, because only those chosen by the curse were capable of facing it. I sat down and carefully read the ancient book that the town librarian gave me. In the rotting pages, I found a passage that read, "When the keeper hesitates, the darkness grows. When he fears, the darkness spreads. But when he accepts the truth, the only light appears." The words sent a chill down my spine. Was it necessary for me to accept myself as part of the curse instead of fighting it? On Saturday night, as the moon hung low in the sky, I heard the call clearer than ever. It was no longer a whisper, but echoed throughout the house. "James, open the door for me." The deep voice made every window vibrate. The wooden floor groaned. I walked to the mirror in the hallway, where the moonlight shone faintly. The keeper appeared clearly, his deep eyes sucking my soul. Suddenly, I found myself standing in another room, dark and cold. Surrounded by trembling figures, they whispered for help. A thin woman with sunken eyes grabbed my hand and whispered, "Help us. Only you can open the door." I jerked my hand back in panic, but her hand was as cold as ice, leaving a bruise on my wrist. Then I saw Daniel, the boy who had disappeared. He stood a few steps away from me, his eyes dark but filled with sadness. He said, "Did you see? He keeps us here forever. If you don't open the door, we will never be free." I froze. His words were the complete opposite of the old man's warning. So which was the truth? While I was still confused, the keeper appeared. He stood towering at the end of the room, his voice resounding. "Don't trust them. They are my puppets. Choose James. Stay here instead of me, or let me go out." I trembled, my mind spinning. Screams, pleas, and twisted laughter crashed together like a storm. I was yanked back, falling straight into the darkness. When I woke up, I found myself lying on the floor. The old man stood nearby, his face worried. He said I had been unconscious for hours, and the mirror was constantly glowing. He claimed that the keeper was trying to enter my mind, to force me to open the door. From that day on, strange phenomena occurred more often. Every time I looked into any mirror, I saw Margaret's spirit. She didn't say anything, just looked at me with pleading eyes. Daniel kept appearing in my dreams, his small hand trying to pull me away. I didn't know if they wanted to save me or lure me into the keeper's trap. One night, I heard noises coming from the basement. The old man and I decided to go down to check. When the flashlight beam entered the dark corner, we discovered a stone door that had never been seen before. On it were engraved symbols identical to the ancient book. The old man whispered, "This is the original seal. If we break the door, we can find the answer." I hesitated, but the echo from the mirror rang out again. "Open it, James. The key is your blood." My heart clenched. I realized, whether I wanted to or not, I was going deeper into the labyrinth of the curse. And perhaps the truth about its origin lay right behind that stone door. I looked at the old man, seeing in his eyes both fear and fragile faith. We prepared the ritual to open the door, even though we knew that once this door was opened, everything might get out of control. The story is not over yet, because in the next episode, I will explore behind the stone door with the old man and face the terrifying secret that has been buried for centuries. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the stone door appeared before my eyes, and the old man next door, like an ancient scar covered by time, now stripped bare. On the rough surface, covered with moss and mold, were crooked symbols, a language I had only glimpsed in an ancient book. The flashlight's shaky light illuminated each carving, reflecting a faint light as if it were moving, as if it had life. The old man breathed heavily, his voice hoarse. "This is the original seal. If we break it, we will find the source of the curse. But James, remember, once opened, there is no turning back." I looked into his eyes, which were cloudy with age, and saw both fear and determination. I nodded, because deep down, I knew there was no other choice. I lightly cut my palm, letting blood drip onto the symbols. Immediately, the door shook, each piece of stone creaking as if someone was pushing from the inside. A whisper echoed throughout. "The cellar, open it. Open it for us." I shivered, but did not stop. As the blood touched the last symbol, a cold wind blew out, extinguishing the flashlight. In the darkness, the door slowly opened, revealing a deep, dark crack. We entered. Inside was a narrow corridor with black cloths covered in dust hanging. On both sides, the strong smell of mold mixed with the pungent smell of rust. The sound of water drops falling steadily onto the stone floor was like the heartbeat of the darkness itself. The deeper I went, the more I felt an invisible pressure on my chest. My breathing quickened, my mind spinning. At the end of the corridor was a round room. A large circle was carved on the floor, filled with dust and old ritual objects. In the middle of the room was a stone pedestal, on which was placed a rotten wooden box. The old man walked tremblingly, his skinny hand lightly touching the lid of the box. "This is the first soul vessel, where it all began," he said softly. As the lid opened, a plume of black smoke rose, swirling around the room. In the dark whirlwind, dozens of voices rose, wailing, screaming, distorted laughter. I clutched my head, my ears ringing, and the old man backed away, coughing. The smoke gathered into the shape of a giant face, eyes glowing red, a voice resounding, "You dared to break the seal. Now there is no escape." In a moment of horror, I saw a flash of images, dark rituals, flowing blood, a black-robed wizard standing in a circle of fire, the keeper himself. He had sacrificed dozens of souls to create the mirror, and since then he had been trapped in his own demonic creation. But those devoured souls had never been released. I suddenly understood. This wooden box is the true source, the only key that can break or strengthen the curse. I reached out to touch it, but the black smoke immediately surrounded me, choking my throat. In the choking sound, I heard the keeper whisper, "James, you cannot resist me. You were born to be the gate." The old man used his last bit of strength to raise the wooden cross. A pale yellow light emitted, tearing apart part of the black smoke. He shouted loudly, "Hurry, James, seal it now." I trembled, gritting my teeth and using blood to redraw the symbol on the stone pedestal. But the more I drew, the angrier the black smoke became, the louder the souls screamed. The keeper's figure appeared clearly in the whirlwind, his smile wide, his bloodshot eyes piercing deep into me. As soon as the last symbol was completed, the wooden box closed with a loud bang. The smoke dissipated, the room fell silent. I collapsed, my whole body exhausted. The old man knelt beside me, his trembling hand on my shoulder. "We've only delayed him. James, the road ahead is still long." I looked towards the wooden box, the pale light still flickering around it. I knew clearly this was not the end, but only the door to a more terrible truth. I felt my soul being pulled closer and closer to the darkness. The story did not end here, because in the next episode, I would know the true price of opening the stone door, and understand clearly why I could not escape the predetermined fate. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the air in the round room was still heavy, as if there was an invisible pressure pressing down on me. I sat on the cold stone floor, my hands trembling from losing too much blood. The old man next door was panting, leaning against the wall, his face pale. The wooden box on the stone pedestal looked peaceful, but I knew that deep inside it was a dark world and an unrevealed truth. I looked up at the old man and asked softly, why was I chosen? Why can my blood awaken and seal at the same time? The old man was silent for a long time. Then his voice was hoarse and trembling. "James, you are not the first. In the past, there were others who were chosen, but they all failed. Their blood is linked to the original ritual. Perhaps your family did not move to this house by chance." His words made my heart clench. I remembered my parents' sudden and mysterious deaths with no answers. Could they also be victims of this curse? The thought made me shiver, my mind spinning. At that moment, the wooden box made a slight noise. The old man and I were both startled. A small crack appeared on the rotten wooden surface, and a bright red light shone through. I clearly felt a cold air rush in, accompanied by a distant whisper. The keeper's familiar voice rang out. "You have opened the seal, James. Now the truth will swallow you." The entire room shook. The stone floor cracked into long cracks. From below the cracks, black smoke poured out, swirling around us. In the smoke, the souls reappeared. They no longer screamed like before, but silently looked at me with empty eyes. A few figures approached. Among them, I recognized Margaret's face. She whispered, "James, you have to end this. Don't let him escape." I clenched my fists, but my heart pounded when Margaret's eyes suddenly changed. In an instant, her eyes turned black. A twisted smile appeared. Her voice changed to the keeper's voice, echoing, "You cannot distinguish who is real and who is fake. They are all puppets." In my hands, I stepped back, shivering, realizing that he was manipulating every soul in the prison. The old man shouted loudly, raising the wooden cross. A faint light flared up, dispelling some of the black smoke. He shouted, "James, run. Take the box away from here." I trembled and hugged the wooden box, but the moment I touched it, a flickering image flooded my mind. I saw my parents. They stood in front of the mirror, their eyes panicked, and the keeper was right behind them. He whispered, "Your family has paid the price. Now it's your turn." I was stunned, fell down. The wooden box fell to the floor. The old man rushed to help, but when he touched it, he screamed in pain. Blood gushed from his mouth. I hugged him, panicked. What should we do? He held my hand tightly, whispering in his last breath, "James, the key is within you." Then he collapsed, his breath fading. I was stunned, tears welling up in my eyes. The old man, the only one who had helped me fight, was gone. Darkness enveloped me, black smoke tightened around me. The keeper's laughter echoed throughout the room. "There is no one to protect you now. You are mine." In a moment of despair, I remembered the ancient book. I turned each page trembling, until I saw a faint passage. The keeper of the key must choose. Sacrifice his own soul to close it forever, or open the way for the keeper to step out. I shuddered, knowing that the choice was right before me. The wooden box glowed fiercely again. The crack widened, more black smoke poured out. In the smoke, the figure of the keeper appeared gigantic, his red eyes piercing deep. He stretched out his long arm, his hand wide open as if to grab my soul. I fell backwards onto the stone floor, my heart pounding as if it was about to explode. In the chaos, I heard the voice of Daniel, the child who disappeared years ago. He whispered right next to my ear, "You can save us, or bury us all. Choose." I turned around, saw his eyes filled with tears, his young face distorted by despair. I trembled, cold sweat pouring down my body. Was this the final truth? I was the key, the one who decided the fate of dozens of souls trapped in this prison. But did I have the courage to sacrifice myself? The story is not over yet, because in the next episode, I will face the most terrible choice: sacrifice to seal it, or open the way for the keeper to escape and lead everyone into darkness. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the darkness in the circular room seemed to swallow my breath. I knelt before the cracked wooden box, the red light shining on my face like hellfire. The keeper's laughter echoed, bouncing off the stone walls. He was getting closer. I could hear my own heartbeat. Margaret's voice rang out from the darkness. "James, sacrifice yourself. It's the only way to end it." Daniel's voice followed, urgent. "Brother, don't leave me. Open the way for us to get out." The two voices intertwined, one urging me to give up, the other luring me to open the door. I felt like I was standing between two abysses, each with a terrible price. I remembered the pages of an ancient book. The keeper of the key must choose. The choice will decide the fate of the world. My trembling hands rested on the wooden box, feeling the cold air penetrate my bones. The image of my parents flashed through my mind. They collapsed in this house, their eyes filled with despair before disappearing. I clenched my teeth, tears welling up in my eyes. If they had to make the same choice as me, I would not repeat the tragedy. But just as my will lit up, the keeper appeared. He was a giant in the black smoke, his eyes glowing red like two smoldering coal pits. His voice echoed. "Do you think you can fight fate, James? You belong to me. You were born to open the way." He held out his hand, a dark vortex emanating from his palm. I was pulled towards him, my body weightless. In that moment, I saw all the imprisoned souls. They writhed in the darkness, crying out for release. Several familiar faces flashed by. Not just Margaret, not just Daniel, but my parents too. They looked at me with pleading eyes. My heart clenched. My chest felt like it was being squeezed. I screamed, trying to resist the pull, my hand still on the wooden box. As soon as I touched it, a white light exploded, tearing the smoke away for a moment. I saw a small but strangely bright piece of mirror in the box. The image reflected in it was not me, but the keeper. His face was distorted, his crooked smile distorted even more. I realized this box contained not only his soul, but also the original piece, the source of his power. He shouted, "Don't touch it." But I grabbed the mirror. Immediately, screams echoed. The room shook violently. I felt my body being torn in two, one part pulled towards the light, the other into the darkness. In that moment of separation, I saw two paths clearly. One, I could use the mirror fragment to absorb all the souls into myself, sealing them forever with my own sacrifice. Two, I could shatter the mirror fragment, breaking the seal, and letting the keeper and all the souls escape. I trembled, cold sweat poured out, my heart pounding. I knew clearly this decision would decide everything. Daniel's voice rang out again, weak this time. "You, don't leave me." But Margaret's voice was fierce. "James, if you open the door, it will all end in blood and fire. Don't let him out." The keeper roared, his shadow surrounding the room. "Choose, James. Your life or my freedom." I held the mirror fragment tightly. In my hand bleeding. The white light gradually overwhelmed the darkness, but his power was stronger than ever. I shouted, pouring all my will into the final decision. And then, in a blinding flash, it all disappeared. I fell to my knees, gasping for breath. The wooden box shattered, the mirror in my hand glowed, then died. But when I looked up, I saw that the mirror on the wall was still there, intact. And for a moment, the keeper's red eyes flashed from within. I understood that I had not won. I had only touched the essence of the game he had set. The gate was not yet locked, and the final price still awaited me. The story was not over yet, because in the next episode, I would learn the true price of my decision and the final truth about the bond between me and the keeper. Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, the circular room was filled with silence after the loud explosion. I lay sprawled on the stone floor, my hands still clutching the broken mirror. My chest ached, each breath like a knife cutting deep into my lungs. All around me, the ash was white. The candles had melted into puddles of wax, and the wooden box had shattered into hundreds of pieces. But the mirror on the wall was still there. The darkness in it was silent, but the keeper's red eyes still flashed for a split second. I knew he wasn't gone. I had only stalled for time. I struggled to stand up, my head spinning from the loss of blood. For a moment, I heard a whisper in my ear, Daniel's voice. "Brother, you're almost there, but not enough. The gate is still ajar. If you don't lock it completely, he'll come back stronger." The weak voice made my heart ache. I looked into the mirror, seeing the silhouette of the child appear. His eyes were filled with tears, his small hands placed on the glass as if begging. Suddenly, Daniel's image disappeared. Instead, the mirror reflected me, but a different version. My face was pale, my eyes were empty, my mouth had a crooked smile. I was stunned, realizing that the keeper was using my form to tease me. The self in the mirror spoke in a deep voice. "Do you think you are different from me? You used your blood to seal it. You and I are one." Those words were like a knife piercing my mind. I trembled, trying to deny it, but I felt the darkness in my heart spreading more and more. My body was heavy, my mind was hazy. It seemed like he was gradually invading my soul. I staggered and fell, my hand still clutching the broken mirror. In the last moment of consciousness, I remembered what the old man said before he died. "The key lies within you." I glanced at the mirror, seeing a faint light. I understood that only by accepting to take on all the darkness could I seal him forever. I struggled, closed my eyes, and held the mirror to my chest. Blood flowed from my hand, seeping into the crack. Immediately, white light exploded, spreading. Throughout the room, the large mirror shook violently, and terrifying screams echoed from within. I saw the keeper screaming, his red eyes burning, then gradually fading away in the light. The souls of Margaret, Daniel, and dozens of other faces appeared in the bright light. They smiled, then faded into thousands of small specks of light flying. Throughout the room, I collapsed, my body feeling as if all of my strength had been sucked out. The darkness in my heart gradually disappeared, replaced by a numbing emptiness. The mirror cracked open, and each piece fell to the floor, shattering into dust. I looked up, no longer seeing any red eyes. There was only a bare stone wall. I sat down, panting, tears streaming down my face. Finally, I did it. I locked the gate and freed the imprisoned souls, but the price was too great. The old man was dead, the house was now nothing but ashes of memories, and I still had a deep scar never to be healed. I left the house as dawn broke. The golden sunlight covered the gravel road, erasing some of the darkness that had haunted me all these days. But as I walked, I caught a glimpse of myself in the glass window of the house across the street, red eyes flashing for a split second. I stopped, my heart pounding. Could it be that a part of the keeper still existed in me? I turned away, not daring to look any further. This story seemed to be over, but I understood that the darkness never completely disappeared. It was just waiting for another chance to return. And maybe it will be another place, another house, another person. This story ends here, But for those who believe they are safe, remember, sometimes the mirror in your house reflects not only your image, but also what is waiting on the other side of the darkness.